Meggie, when you were a little girl, you were like my own child to me. You were the rose in my life. I could have you then.
Richard Chamberlain spent 6 decades in the spotlight and successfully failed to keep his secret secret. While millions adored TV's Dr. Kildare, few knew about his $25 million fortune or longtime partner. Once a shy, skinny boy, he became the king of the miniseries. Will Rabbett inherit it all? And why did Chamberlain wait until 70 to reveal his truth? Join us as we find out all that Richard Chamberlain left behind, leaving his family in tears. The hidden truth. Every night, millions of women swooned over Dr. Kildare, but Richard Chamberlain was keeping a secret that could have ended his career overnight. While female fans daydreamed about marrying the handsome doctor, Chamberlain lived with the daily stress of hiding who he really was. In a time when being gay could destroy an actor's career, he created a careful public image that revealed nothing about his personal life. He later admitted that he lived in constant fear of being found out. Every moment in public felt like a performance. This double life began long before fame. Growing up in the 1940s and 50s, Richard realized early that his feelings were different. In those days, homosexuality was seen as a moral failing. Gay people could lose their jobs, be rejected by family, or even be arrested just for being themselves. Many understood back then that honesty wasn't an option. For someone like Chamberlain, whose career thrived on his image as a romantic leading man, coming out could have ended everything. The pressure increased with fame. As Dr. Kildare, Chamberlain became the ideal boyfriend in the eyes of American women. Studio executives worked hard to maintain this image, arranging publicity dates with actresses and creating stories about romantic interests that never existed. Behind closed doors, Chamberlain had real relationships with men, including actor Wesley Ure in the 1970s. These connections had to be hidden completely. Friends were carefully screened, social gatherings were private, and photographs were strictly controlled. Psychologist Dr. Thomas Reynolds noted that living under that kind of stress takes a toll. He explained that people in that situation become incredibly skilled at acting in everyday life, but constantly keeping up that facade comes at a price. That cost sometimes appeared in Chamberlain's work. While filming The Music Lovers in 1970, where he played composer Tchaikovsky, who was also gay, director Ken Russell noticed the depth in his performance. What Russell didn't know was that Chamberlain was drawing from his own experiences. The secrecy continued into the 1980s, even as Chamberlain reached the peak of his career with Shogun and The Thorn Birds. His role as Father Ralph, a priest torn between his vows and love for a woman, struck viewers as deeply authentic. Yet the real conflict in Chamberlain's life was different from what played out on screen. Then came 1989 and an unexpected crisis. A French magazine, Nu Deux, published an article that directly stated Chamberlain was gay. It was the moment he had feared for decades. Rather than acknowledge the truth, Chamberlain denied the story. He wasn't ready, and the entertainment industry wasn't ready either. Stars like Rock Hudson had seen their images completely change after their sexuality became public, and Chamberlain wasn't willing to risk the same fate. For the next 14 years, he continued the balancing act between public and private life. But as he entered his 60s, something shifted. The constant hiding had become exhausting. New generations were more accepting, and Chamberlain was no longer reliant on romantic leading man roles. A colleague observed that he eventually reached a point where being honest mattered more than the fear of what might happen. He just seemed exhausted from constantly keeping up walls. In 2003, at age 70, Chamberlain finally told his truth. His memoir, Shattered Love, addressed his sexuality openly for the first time. The book detailed his struggles with self-acceptance and fears about public reaction. "I thought there was something very, very deeply wrong with me," he wrote. "I made a pact with myself that I would never, ever reveal this secret." The reaction to his coming out was mostly positive, though Chamberlain remained practical about Hollywood. In interviews, he advised other leading men to stay private, saying, "There's still a tremendous amount of homophobia. Don't pretend we're suddenly all accepted. Even in 2003, Chamberlain knew that an openly gay young actor would face different career prospects than his straight counterparts. He had survived by playing it safe, and part of him still believed that was necessary. As years passed, Chamberlain grew more comfortable discussing his life openly. He took roles playing gay characters on shows like Will and Grace and Desperate Housewives, embracing parts he once feared. In an interview from 2014, he looked back on his journey and shared how difficult it was. Growing up in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s as a gay person, he said, wasn't just hard, it felt completely impossible. Yet he had done the impossible, maintaining a 60-year career while carrying a secret that could have ended it all. In his final interviews before his death, Chamberlain acknowledged the trade-off he had made. In an interview with El País in the year 2024, just a year before he passed away, he admitted that life would have been happier if he had been open about who he was. However, he also found happiness in other ways. Being a working actor, he explained, was what mattered most to him. But before Hollywood, a more profound struggle shaped the man he would become. From shy boy to Hollywood heartthrob. Nobody would have bet a dime on the skinny kid with sad eyes becoming one of television's biggest stars. Born on the last day of March in 1931, George Richard Chamberlain didn't seem destined for fame. Growing up in Beverly Hills might sound glamorous, but young Richard's reality was far from it. His father, a salesman with a drinking problem, created a tense home environment that shaped Richard's quiet, withdrawn personality. Richard Chamberlain once described himself as a shy, serious kid who always seemed weighed down by his own thoughts. He remembered being painfully thin, with a long, sad face that only made him feel more out of place. Fitting in didn't come easily. While other kids found their stride in sports or clubs, he struggled, often feeling like the odd one out. He even admitted to being the most uncooperative kid in school, unsure of where he belonged. Everything changed when he discovered track and field in high school. Running gave him a sense of purpose. For the first time, his thin frame became an advantage. For the first time, the track gave Richard Chamberlain something to feel good about. Running let him tune out everything else, just him, his breathing, his stride, and the finish line ahead. It was simple and focused, and for once, he felt like he belonged. By the time he enrolled at Pomona College in 1952, Richard had gained some confidence, but still hadn't found his calling. Studying art history and painting, he considered becoming an artist. Then, on a whim, he auditioned for a college production of George Bernard Shaw's Arms and the Man. When he stepped onto the stage, something awakened in him. James Henderson, his college roommate, described it as if Richard had finally been given a voice after years of being unheard. Richard threw himself into drama classes and campus productions. His professors noticed his natural ability to convey emotion through subtle expressions, an asset that would later make him a television star. Just as he considered pursuing acting professionally, the Korean War interrupted his plans. Drafted into the United States Army in 1956, he served for 16 months in Korea, rising to the rank of sergeant. Military service instilled discipline and structure in the once uncertain young man. Returning home, he pursued acting, landing bit parts in TV westerns like Gunsmoke. One casting director described him as handsome but forgettable. Determined, he co-founded a theater group called Company of Angels, honing his craft in stage roles. Then came 1961, and the audition that changed everything. NBC was launching a new medical drama, Dr. Kildare, based on a popular film series. The show needed a young, idealistic doctor who exuded intelligence and compassion. Richard's quiet intensity was perfect. One producer noted, "Who else could look so antiseptic as Dick?" When Dr. Kildare hit the airwaves, the response was overwhelming. Women of all ages fell in love with the kind, sensitive doctor. Fan mail poured in, 12,000 letters weekly at the show's peak. Public appearances turned into frenzied mob scenes. In Pittsburgh, nearly 500,000 people turned out to see him. In New York, a single child calling his name triggered a stampede of fans. The shy boy who once struggled to make friends was now in millions of living rooms each week. The series tackled social issues like drug addiction and pushing television boundaries. NBC capitalized on his popularity, releasing novels, comics, and games featuring his image. His face appeared on lunchboxes, trading cards, and teen magazines. He even recorded a hit single, proving his versatility beyond acting. In 1963, the transformation from shy boy to superstar was complete when he won a Golden Globe. The skinny kid with sad eyes had become Dr. Kildare, trusted, admired, and adored. Richard's high school English teacher once admitted that he was the last student they ever expected to see on television. In class, he barely spoke above a whisper. Yet there he was, healing patients and winning hearts. Acting saved him from insecurity, but after skyrocketing to fame, could he break free from his heartthrob image? Reinventing his career. Success in Hollywood can be a trap, and Richard Chamberlain faced a fear many actors share, being stuck playing the same role forever. When Dr. Kildare ended in 1966 after 5 successful seasons, Chamberlain faced a tough reality. To millions, he wasn't Richard Chamberlain. He was Dr. James Kildare, the kind young doctor who had visited their living rooms each week. Breaking free wouldn't be easy. During the 1980s, Chamberlain shared that the studio kept pushing him to play different versions of the same charming young man. But he knew that if he didn't step away from Dr. Kildare, he would never grow as an actor. His first attempt to shake his clean-cut image was the 1966 romantic film Joy in the Morning. It was meant to establish him as a serious romantic lead, but audiences weren't ready. During emotional scenes meant to bring tears, viewers laughed instead. Critics suggested he should stick to television. A colleague described the experience as humbling. Chamberlain had been at the top of his game with Dr. Kildare, but suddenly, he was being told he didn't have what it took to make it in serious films. Rather than give up, Chamberlain made a bold move. He left America entirely, heading for England. There, he hoped to reinvent himself in London's respected theatre world, away from the shadow of Dr. Kildare. His first major project, a musical version of Breakfast at Tiffany's with Mary Tyler Moore, was an infamous failure, closing after just 4 preview performances. But instead of retreating, Chamberlain persisted, taking smaller roles in British television, including an adaptation of Henry James's Portrait of a Lady in 1968. Working alongside veteran British actors helped him shed his American TV mannerisms. His breakthrough came when the Birmingham Repertory Theatre cast him as Hamlet, one of Shakespeare's most challenging roles. Many doubted that an American TV doctor could handle such complexity. Chamberlain later shared that he had put more effort into preparing for Hamlet than anything else in his career. With so many people expecting him to fail, he felt even more determined to prove them wrong. On opening night in 1969, critics who had expected disaster instead saw a transformation. Chamberlain's performance earned standing ovations and glowing reviews. One critic wrote, "Last night, Dr. Kildare died, and a serious actor was born." This success led to a televised production of Hamlet for Hallmark, introducing his refined acting skills to American audiences. The recording earned a Grammy nomination, further validating his artistic growth. With new confidence, Chamberlain took on film roles that shattered his former image. In The Music Lovers in 1970, he played composer Tchaikovsky, exploring themes of homosexuality and mental illness, topics that would have been unthinkable during his Dr. Kildare days. Though critics were divided on the film, most agreed that Chamberlain's performance had unexpected depth. Through the 1970s, he continued to challenge himself. As Lord Byron in Lady Caroline Lamb, 1973, he portrayed the famous poet with both brilliance and flaws. In The Three Musketeers and its sequel, he showcased surprising physicality as Aramis. He even revealed a hidden talent for singing, performing in the musical The Slipper and the Rose in 1976. Later, he starred in stage productions like My Fair Lady as Professor Henry Higgins, proving himself as a capable musical theater performer. Margaret Wilson noted that very few actors had managed to go from television heartthrob to respected stage performer. She explained that Chamberlain achieved it through pure determination and a willingness to start over from the bottom. By the late 1970s, Chamberlain had achieved something remarkable. He had completely changed how the entertainment industry viewed him. No longer just a pretty face or a TV doctor, he had earned respect as a serious, versatile performer capable of handling Shakespeare, musical numbers, and action sequences with equal skill. This reinvention didn't happen by accident. It required stepping out of his comfort zone, risking failure, and years of dedication. Chamberlain took voice lessons, movement classes, and dialect training. He studied great stage actors and absorbed their techniques. Most importantly, he accepted roles that scared him. He once shared that the roles that scared him the most were often the ones that taught him the most. He explained, "When I read a script and thought, I don't know if I can do this, that usually meant I should take the role." This transformed, more confident Chamberlain was perfectly positioned for the next phase of his career, one that would bring him back to television, not as a young doctor, but as the undisputed king of the epic miniseries format that would dominate 1980s television. King of the miniseries. Television changed forever in 1977 when Roots kept millions of Americans glued to their sets for 8 straight nights, proving the power of the miniseries format. Networks scrambled to replicate its success, searching for stars who could command attention across multiple evenings. Richard Chamberlain, with his serious acting credentials and enduring charm, was the perfect choice. Veteran TV producer Sarah Jenkins explained that the miniseries was like the Super Bowl of acting challenges. She noted, "You needed someone with dramatic training for complex characters, but also the star power to keep people tuning in." Chamberlain had both. His rise as the king of miniseries began with Centennial in 1978, a historical drama based on James Michener's novel about the founding of a Colorado town. The 12-part series showcased Chamberlain's range as he aged from a young man to an elder statesman. Though part of an ensemble cast, his portrayal of Scottish fur trapper Alexander McKeag stood out. But Centennial was just the warm-up. In 1980, NBC cast him as John Blackthorne in Shogun, based on James Clavell's bestseller. Set in 17th century Japan, the epic followed an English navigator stranded in a foreign culture. Filming on location in Japan was risky and expensive, and NBC executives worried about its success. Network executive William Finley recalled that NBC had never put so much money into a TV event before. He explained that if the event had failed, there would have been serious consequences for the network. However, casting Richard Chamberlain in the lead role gave them confidence. They knew that audiences trusted Chamberlain, and his popularity could help ensure the event's success. His proven track record made the decision less risky, offering a sense of reassurance that the investment would pay off. That trust paid off. Shogun aired over 5 nights in September 1980, drawing nearly 30 million viewers per episode. Chamberlain's performance won him a Golden Globe, making him television's leading man. Following Shogun, an even bigger role awaited Father Ralph de Bricassar in The Thornbirds, based on Colleen McCullough's novel. The story of a Catholic priest torn between his faith and forbidden love with Maggie Cleary, played by Rachel Ward, was an emotional powerhouse spanning decades. Costume designer Eleanor Phillips noted the incredible chemistry between Richard Chamberlain and Rachel Ward. Despite the age difference between them, they managed to create a palpable tension, one that was noticeable even when they were simply in the same room. When The Thornbirds aired in 1983, it became one of the most watched miniseries of all time, drawing 60% of all television viewers. It earned 16 Emmy nominations, and Chamberlain's portrayal of the tormented priest won him another Golden Globe. What made Chamberlain so effective in these epic roles was his talent for creating characters that audiences wanted to follow for hours. His classical training gave him the skills to handle the emotional depth of long-form storytelling, allowing him to bring complex characters to life. At the same time, his natural charm and presence on screen kept viewers hooked, making them eager to watch every moment of his performance. This combination of skill and charisma was key to his success in these epic roles. Television historian Barbara Wilson highlighted that Richard Chamberlain truly understood the unique demands of the miniseries format. While a 2-hour movie might allow an actor to remain distant or mysterious, an 8-hour miniseries requires a deeper connection with the audience. Chamberlain possessed that rare quality that kept viewers invested in his characters throughout the long storylines. After The Thornbirds, Chamberlain continued his dominance of the format, starring in Casanova and playing Jason Bourne in The Bourne Identity, long before Matt Damon made the role famous. The miniseries structure suited him well, allowing extended breaks between projects. He used this time to pursue stage work and maintain his private life in Hawaii, away from Hollywood's glare. By the 1990s, the golden age of miniseries waned as network budgets tightened and viewing habits changed. Chamberlain transitioned to guest roles in shows like Will and Grace, Desperate Housewives, and Leverage, introducing him to younger audiences. In 2017, he even appeared in Twin Peaks: The Return. As streaming services revived long-form storytelling, many producers studied Chamberlain's work from the 90s as a masterclass in leading multi-episode dramas. His performances in Shogun and The Thornbirds set a benchmark for emotional depth and engagement. Though his career spanned 6 decades, it is his dominance of the miniseries format that remains his greatest legacy. Few actors have ruled a genre as completely as Richard Chamberlain did, earning a crown that no one has quite claimed since. Now that he's gone, the weight of those shoes may lighten, but their mark will stay. Maybe someone else will step into them, though they may never fit like Richard Chamberlain. A 30-year love story. When the cameras stopped rolling, Richard Chamberlain went home to a love story more genuine than any he played on screen. For more than 3 decades, Martin Rabbett was the constant in Chamberlain's life, his partner, his friend, and eventually his caregiver. Their relationship began in the mid-1970s, when Hollywood was far less accepting of same-sex couples. They met during a casting session where the younger Rabbett, an aspiring actor and writer, immediately caught Chamberlain's attention with his talent and warm personality. David Cohen, a friend who had known the couple since the 1980s, explained that Richard and Martin first connected on an intellectual level. Richard was drawn to Martin's creative mind and kind nature. Their relationship wasn't the flashy kind you'd see in movies. The couple kept their relationship quiet for years, appearing in public as friends or colleagues. In 1986, they took their professional relationship to the screen when Rabbett was cast as Chamberlain's brother in Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold. Though playing siblings, their natural chemistry was apparent to everyone on set. That same year, they made a life-changing decision to move to Hawaii together. Their oceanfront home in Waimanalo became their sanctuary away from Hollywood's prying eyes. There, surrounded by tropical gardens and with the Pacific Ocean as their backdrop, they held a private commitment ceremony long before same-sex marriage was legally recognized. Their neighbor for 20 years remembered how Hawaii changed both of them. Richard became more relaxed and less focused on his public image, while Martin thrived as a writer. The two would often take long walks on the beach at sunrise, talking for hours. Rabbett, 11 years younger than Chamberlain, helped the actor embrace a healthier lifestyle. They practiced yoga together, adopted a local diet rich in fresh fish and tropical fruits, and became familiar faces in their community, not as celebrities, but as residents who participated in local beach cleanups and conservation efforts. Their home became a creative workshop where Rabbett developed screenplays and Chamberlain prepared for roles. Friends described visits to their house as warm and welcoming experiences, with Rabbett often cooking while Chamberlain entertained with stories from his early Hollywood days. Former co-star Julia Stevens explained that Martin brought out Richard's playful side. Before important meetings or performances, Richard would get very serious and tense, but Martin knew just how to make him laugh and relax. Rabbett's influence extended to Chamberlain's career choices as well. He encouraged the actor to take risks with challenging roles and helped edit Chamberlain's 2003 memoir Shattered Love, which finally addressed his sexuality publicly. The book, which Chamberlain published at age 70, was a watershed moment for the couple. They no longer had to hide. Their publishing agent remembered the relief on both their faces. After the book was released, they held hands at a restaurant for the first time. It was a simple act, but for them, it marked decades of having to be careful. In 2010, their living arrangement changed when Chamberlain decided to return to Los Angeles to pursue more acting opportunities. The separation raised eyebrows among friends, but both men insisted their bond remained strong despite living apart. Their longtime friend Robert Lanning shared that it wasn't a traditional breakup. They were growing as individuals but still had a strong bond. Even during their time apart, they spoke almost every day. Rabbett stayed in Hawaii, continuing his writing and producing work, while Chamberlain took on guest roles in shows like Desperate Housewives and Leverage. The distance allowed them both to explore independent interests, but friends noticed they always lit up when speaking about each other. As Chamberlain entered his late 80s and his health began to decline, the pull to reunite became stronger. By 2023, they had resumed living together in their beloved Hawaii home, coming full circle to where their relationship had flourished decades earlier. When Chamberlain suffered a stroke in early 2025, Rabbett never left his side. For the final weeks of the actor's life, Rabbett coordinated with medical professionals, managed visitors, and spent quiet moments reading aloud to his partner, often from scripts of plays they'd enjoyed together over the years. On March 29, 2020, when Chamberlain passed away, Rabbett was holding his hand. His public statement following Chamberlain's death revealed the depth of their connection. "Our beloved Richard is with the angels now. He is free and soaring to those loved ones before us. How blessed were we to have known such an amazing and loving soul." The words "lifelong partner and best friend" in the official announcement marked the first time their relationship had been so clearly acknowledged in formal communications about Chamberlain. Friends say that in private moments, Rabbett shared that their love story had been worth every challenge they faced. "Love never dies," he had written in his tribute. "And our love is under his wings, lifting him to his next great adventure." Their bond lasted a lifetime, but when his fortune was revealed, emotions ran high. The $25 million legacy. Richard Chamberlain wasn't just a handsome face on TV. Behind those famous blue eyes and charming smile was a shrewd businessman who built a fortune that would make most Hollywood actors jealous. When Chamberlain died at 90 in his beloved Hawaii home, he left behind an impressive $25 million, which took 6 decades of hard work to build. For a man who started as a shy, skinny kid with a long, sad face, that's quite a journey to financial success. A former colleague from the Thornbirds set remembered how careful Richard was with his money. While others spent on fancy cars and wild parties, he was busy meeting with financial advisors and checking property prices in Hawaii. His biggest cash cows were 3 career-defining roles that turned him into a household name. As Dr. Kildare in the 1960s, Chamberlain entered living rooms across America, making hearts flutter and NBC's ratings soar. This breakout role not only launched his career, but also provided his first taste of serious wealth. But it was in the 1980s when Chamberlain really hit the jackpot. His performances in Shogun and the Thornbirds miniseries were ratings giants that commanded top dollar. Industry insiders estimate he earned well over $1 million for each of these productions, staggering sums for television at that time. Entertainment historian Barbara Walden said miniseries were the blockbusters of their time. Networks spent big on them because they always brought in huge audiences, and stars like Chamberlain could earn top salaries. Unlike many actors who blow their fortunes on extravagant lifestyles, Chamberlain invested wisely. His biggest passion was Hawaiian real estate, a market that grew tremendously from the 1980s through the 2000s. His primary residence, a stunning oceanfront property, was purchased when Hawaii's market was still relatively affordable. Local real estate agent Tom Kelly said Richard bought when others weren't looking. Waimanalo wasn't the hotspot back then, but he saw the beauty and potential before the big money moved in. By 2011, when Chamberlain sold one of his Hawaiian properties, it had skyrocketed in value to $13.8 million, almost 10 times what he originally paid. This single transaction added significantly to his wealth and proved his eye for long-term investments. Unlike some celebrities who spend their later years chasing paychecks to maintain their lifestyle, Chamberlain could afford to be selective. He chose theater roles that interested him artistically rather than financially, appearing in Broadway productions like My Fair Lady and touring with Spamalot well into his 70s. Broadway director Matthew Lewis said Richard didn't need the money by then. He kept performing because he loved it, and his financial freedom let him choose roles based on passion rather than need. His business acumen extended beyond real estate and acting. Chamberlain negotiated deals that included ownership percentages of his work, ensuring residual payments would continue flowing long after filming wrapped. Every time The Thornbirds or Shogun aired in reruns around the world, his bank account grew a little larger. Chamberlain lived comfortably but never ostentatiously. His Hawaii home was beautiful but not flashy by celebrity standards. He drove nice cars but not rare collector's items. His one luxury was travel, often exploring Asia where his time filming Shogun had sparked a lifelong interest in Eastern cultures. A former assistant said Richard wasn't cheap, just smart with money. He would spend on a great meal or a meaningful experience, but never wasted thousands just to impress others. By the time of his death in March 2025, Chamberlain's financial house was in perfect order. With no children of his own, all signs point to his partner of over 3 decades, Martin Rabbett, inheriting the bulk of his estate. The two had renewed their living arrangement in Hawaii during Chamberlain's final years, coming full circle to where they had spent their happiest times together. Rabbett, who was by Chamberlain's side when he died from complications of a stroke just 1 day before his 91st birthday, has made no public statements about the inheritance. Those close to the couple say money was never what mattered most in their relationship. A longtime friend of the couple shared that Martin loved Richard for who he was, not for being a star or a millionaire. However, the financial security Richard left behind will help Martin continue their shared values and charitable work. The $25 million is proof of a life well planned. It is the cautious, thoughtful approach of a man who started with nothing and built security through talent, hard work, and smart choices. In a town where fortunes disappear as quickly as they're made, Chamberlain stood out as someone who knew the value of tomorrow as well as today. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.